Give a big standing welcome to Alexis Gonzales Black.
These boots are made for walking.
Remember that?
That's just what they'll do. One of these days, these boots are
Come on over,
gonna
sweetie.
walk all over you.
Wow. Hi. Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah.
We'll just play. Can you hear me? Okay? Wow, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you
My
very
God.
much.
Do you remember that when I was like, oh my God?
Oh, yeah. It's happened to me many times. Like barefoot in a dark conference room, hiding on a conference call, trying to not let people hear what you're doing. I've been there.
Is that a part of the culture at Zappos?
It's no problem. I mean, anything goes at Zappos. Really anything. So, yes.
That is awesome. So thank you for being here, seriously, on
Yeah.
a serious note. And thank you for bringing your team.
Yeah, we've got Zappos represented back there. The two tables. Raise your hands, guys. It's a Zappos
Stand up,
team.
Zappos. Stand
Stand up, y'all. Show the people
Stand
who
up,
you
y'all.
are. Yeah.
You want to share
We
who
have an
some of them
incredible
are?
team here today. So people from all over the company, from marketing and tech and our education and pipeline team. So from all over the place. Yeah.
Where's Josh?
Josh right there.
Josh,
Mr. PR.
you made all this happen between
Yeah, he was a lifesaver.
what?
Yeah.
So let's talk.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you have this amazing, and first of all, I think I left some things out. Would you just be not humble and share a little bit more about your epicness?
So this is I'll share that this is particularly challenging for me in front of my Zappos family
I'm gonna hold
because we live by 10 core values, and core value number 10 is be humble. And but I'm going to go, when we talk about what be humble means, we sort of talk about it as it means that a good idea can come from anywhere. So I'm going to use that definition of humble and then share some other stuff. So hopefully that works. I mean, I think you captured most of it. So my work at Zappos started in talent recruitment. That's what I've been doing for a while. I worked with the nonprofit Teach for America. Anybody familiar with Teach for America? Yes, some very great work going on there. So I worked there for about 5 years before I came to Zappos with talent recruitment. And I have been able to really just kind of choose my own adventure at Zappos, which has been incredible. And I think it's the reason why Zappos is an exceptional company. So started in talent recruitment and then moved to our Zappos University team, which puts on educational programs and development programs for folks in the company. And then ended up jumping on board on this Holocracy initiative. So we've mentioned the word Holocracy a bunch of times. I realize that it's probably a term that most of you aren't familiar with. Has anybody even heard of Holocracy? Can you do a show of hands? Okay. 2 people. 3 people. Fantastic.
From Zappos.
Yeah, one of them from Zappos. I should hope that you guys know what Holocracy is by now. So yeah, I got a chance to be a part of this new organizational design initiative called Holocracy, which is really about sort of building in evolution into the DNA of a company. And so if you'll hear me for a second, I'll kind of do the basic definition. I'm good? All right. So what we know about companies is that as they get larger, it becomes harder and harder to evolve, right? And to make decisions and to iterate quickly. A bunch of stuff sort of sets in. You've got silos of communication, bureaucracy, all kinds of challenges, and we talk about scaling a company. And so Holocracy is a chance for us to kind of break down some of those rigid management structures into more sort of self-organized circles is what we call them, or teams, right? Self-organized circles that can really self-organize around a purpose and become sort of like mini businesses, like mini startups, right? And they're acting like mini startups and making decisions and making real-time decisions and updating the structure. And so taking the whole company and breaking it into a bunch of sort of mini startups to increase our agility. And so when I first heard about this, I was just flabbergasted because it sort of mirrored for me how I had conducted my professional life up until that point. I had always thought about ownership and taking responsibility and treating every decision as if I was the CEO, right, of my own company. And it's so mirrored kind of my own personal philosophy on business that I just had to be a part of it. And so I jumped on board, and I get to wake up every day and help people, take ownership over their work and break down some of those rigid management structures, which is really empowering. It's great.
That's pretty incredible. So you have this enormous company that's been acquired by Amazon.
That's right.
and you are really running the organization. You're leading this entire initiative.
I wouldn't say running the organization, but yes.
Women rule the world.
Yeah,
We have to step into it. I told you, you'll be like on Forbes top 100.
I know, I was like
women.
cringing in the back. I was back there with a couple folks, and every time you said something like brilliant, I was like, oh, and you were like, Forbes, I was like, oh. And
Well,
the woman next to me was like, are you okay?
Right?
I was like, I'm fine, but this is just like a prophecy that I like really am scared of stepping on stage right now. But thank you, I appreciate it.
Don't be afraid. I'm here. I'm not afraid. I'm a football mom. So, but truly, I mean, so I understand humble, but I also understand stepping into your power, right? And we have had several conversations, and so I might make you a little uncomfortable, but with love, right?
Yeah.
So it is fascinating, though, that Zappos is a big company, and yet the infrastructure has been scaled. So for all of you, so here's how these are going to work. When I do fireside chat, we're going to talk, and then I'm going to weave it back into your business so that you can apply it, okay? So you want to scale, or I'm sorry, Zappos is scaled and will continue to scale. You have some big goals coming up. And so, yet you're operating, like you said, startups and these pockets of entrepreneurial circles, which is fascinating. How do you do that and continue with the quality while not crushing the employee spirit?
That's a good question. So, Zappos is really a purpose-driven organization. And we have a couple things that I think really organize us around one central vision and purpose. And so in Holocracy, our broadest circle, or biggest team, sets the purpose for the company, right? So Tony Hsieh, our CEO, he's the lead of this broadest circle, and he set out the purpose, right? Which is for Zappos to deliver happiness to our stakeholders, our customers, and our employees on a sustainable basis, right? That's the purpose, to deliver happiness, right? And then as the team sort of break out of that larger circle, they create purposes that align to that greater purpose, right? So we're all facing in the same direction. So even though it's a bunch of small startups, if you will, self-organizing, making decisions, there is unity of purpose, and each purpose building into a larger central vision for who we are. So I think that's really important, like having that incredibly clear 2020 vision about what we want to deliver to the world and who we want to be. And I think the other thing that really ensures quality is, I mentioned our core values earlier. We have a pretty unique culture, and it is sort of codified in these 10 core values. And I think when I say...
Will you share those?
Yeah.
Because I love them.
I will try, and you guys will have to help me if I don't get them in the right order.
We'll
but
just do like a group, like core value thing. But by the way, I'm going to interject one
Yeah.
thing. So Alexis said our 2020 plan. Did you catch that? So you're just thinking like, how do I get from here to the end of the year and make up what I didn't do the rest of 2014? And so 2020. So you've got to have a plan. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the core values are sort of our culture codified. And when I say core values, I think what brings to mind for me is these sort of static things that you paint on the wall when you walk into a company, right? And they're on the glass, and it's like integrity and like vision, right? Or like just random things. And you think to yourself, like, how do you operationalize that? Like, what does it actually mean, right? What do these sort of vision statements and core values mean? And I think one of the things that is incredibly unique about Zappos is how embedded the core values are into the work that we do. And I almost didn't believe it, right? I didn't believe it when I came to Zappos. I thought like at some point, you know, beyond the like unicorn parades and like fuzzy teddy bear outfits, like these are all things that happen at Zappos on a daily basis. I thought somebody was gonna like,
This is for real.
this is for real, right? These things happen. And so I show up and I thought like, at what point are they gonna pull back the curtain and you're gonna see like a bunch of miserable people like working, right? So that the rest of people can like party all the time, right? You have that like doubt.
I love that.
You have this sort of doubt that it exists and you're like, there's no way. But I mean, I've been proven wrong every step of the way. And I think that when you pull back the curtain, what you see is you see people truly living our core values. And so I will share with you what our core values are, and just I'll share like hopefully a few stories through this that kind of show you how those core values come to life at Zappos and why they're truly meaningful. So I'm going to try and do these in order, but I never get the order
Zappos
right.
team, I'm going to put
I
all
know
of you
all
on the
10.
spot too. There's an open mic right there, so
Yeah, all right.
help a sister out.
So core value number 1 is deliver wow through service. Okay. And what this means to me, so when you join Zappos, everybody, no matter who you are, if you're hired as a senior VP or entry-level call center employee, every single person goes through 4 weeks of new hire training together, and we all get on the phones and answer calls from the 1-800 line together. Every single person does this, right? And that's where you really learn how to wow, right? And when I think about what does it mean to wow, it means literally getting the other person to say wow on the other side of the line. Like when you look at the evaluation sheet for how these calls are evaluated, because somebody, you know, will pull the calls once in a while and listen to them, and kind of there's this rubric of it. Like you get extra points if you actually get the person to say wow. And so, I mean, it's just incredible. So you're sitting, yeah, it's so awesome. You're sitting on the phone and you're like, all right, like how can I like really show up for this person, right? And you're empowered to give a coupon, right? Somebody calls in and it's like, oh, I got the wrong pair of shoes. You as a call center employee, you do not need to flag a manager or a lead. You can just say, hey, I'd like to give you a $100 coupon, like for your trouble. No approval.
How cool is that?
Like, I heard a whoa, almost a wow, right? Almost a wow. Like I'm
Can we
getting
get
extra
a whoa
points
just
up
for
here.
a wow for all of this? I mean, is this crazy?
I'm getting extra points right now. But you know, that's just like the tip of the iceberg. Like when customers call in and they can't find their shoe on our website, we will shop other websites for them, right? And help them find the shoe at Nordstrom's or wherever, right? We have call center employees that send.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I mean, people call in asking for crazy stuff, like somebody called in asking for pizza. There's a story, you know, and like finding the nearest pizza joint, and a call center employee will help them. The longest call on record at Zappos, there's no call time, so there's no rush to get off the phone. Longest call on record, anybody want to guess how long it was? 10.5 hours.
What?
The
That's
person worked
crazy.
over their shift, had to take breaks to go to the bathroom, come back. Other people had to jump on the call and like talk to this person while they like went and ate
What were they
things.
talking about?
I mean, from what
They must have been driving to Utah and had time to burn.
Just chatting, just getting to know each other. I mean, you know, the conversation from, you know, what I heard, it went around like living in Vegas and working at Zappos. And, you know, I mean, it just evolves. And it's really about delivering a wow experience. So that is kind of the first thing that I think. And again, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like we do this thing called PEC, or building personal emotional connections, and every day there's a set time of the day where call center employees can take a couple minutes to write like handwritten thank you notes to customers, send flowers. So if you're helping a customer that it's their wedding or, you know, something happened, you can send them flowers or cookies. I mean, it is, yeah.
So Zappos is way more than just an online retailer or a shoe store. Do you all get this? Now, did you know all of this about Zappos? It's fascinating, isn't it? So I'm going to jump in 1 second. So as you're building your business and you want mind share from your clients, do you think you want to step into that space to wow them like this? Okay, cool.
Yeah. I think the last thing they'll share that's hopefully interesting to this crew is that we take a lot of the money that we would spend on marketing and we put it into customer service. Because what we found is that word of mouth and customer loyalty is the most powerful marketing that you could possibly have. And so I think, yeah, and that's just core value 1, guys. That's 1 core value out of 10 core values. I mean, there are incredible stories around all of them. So I'll continue, and then feel free to jump in and like,
yeah, so
tell me if I'm,
No,
going too
you're
long.
fantastic. I mean, I could do this all day. Could you like listen all day? We do have other speakers, by the way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just one.
Yeah.
I know I'm familiar with all of them. Enough to be dangerous. My birthday is coming up October 28th. I think I would like to have the unicorn parade.
Oh, you would like to have a unicorn? We can set that up for you. We have a Fungineer team that is in charge of creating fun events.
I'm going to have to coordinate the tour because, Josh, we
do it.
never were able to hook that up in August with the sponsors. So I did sponsor training out here in August. Sponsors that were out here with me, right? And we were trying to do the tour.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's go into Is there one more core value that you'd like to talk about?
Oh no.
Have
Yeah,
fun.
I'll do. Yeah. So number 3 is always a highlight, which is create fun and a little weirdness. And I love that core value because I was probably the weirdest person at Teach for America, and I am probably the lamest person at Zappos by comparison. If you're thinking about like culture, corporate culture, but it is. I had never been in a company before that made having fun a business priority. Like that is so crazy to me, right? Like it is, yeah. I mean, it's so liberating to know that when you stop by your coworkers' desks or break out into a Disney sing-along at 3 p.m., which happens sometimes around my desk, right? When you do those kinds of things, that nobody is going to see it and be like, oh, I really wish she was working on that Excel spreadsheet right now, right? Like, she's really, productivity just took a dive, right? People are like, yeah, great, right? Like, let's join in. And it becomes a business objective, right? To create the kind of environment where people feel comfortable being themselves and having fun. And so I think it's just a really, really great place to work.
That is fantastic. So let's talk about empowerment.
Yeah.
Because Tony is masterful at empowerment. And don't get labeled.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, and along those lines, I'm trying to craft this question because you don't know it's coming. So let me just do it the right way. How challenging is it for a company like Zappos to allow such free reign? So I know a lot of people own businesses, have scaled their businesses. They want to take it to the next level. And they may be thinking, oh my goodness, how do I create this fun and weirdness? How do I allow people to have all of this decision-making authority and still maintain the integrity and profitability, of my company?
Mm-hmm.
So how does Zappos do that? Because there is a lot of creative decision that happens at any level in the company.
So your question is, how do we distribute decision making but still maintain a quality product?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I think it starts with hiring the right people, right? We have an incredibly rigorous hiring process. And so Tony often talks about hire slow, fire fast, right? And so I think there are a couple pieces around there that are really important. So at Zappos, when somebody comes in for an interview, they actually do 2 sets of interviews. They do a technical interview, and they do a culture interview, right? 2 completely separate interviews. We do phone interviews, phone screens. We bring them in for an entire day because it's hard to fake it for an entire day, right? It's easy to fake it for like 90 minutes, but if you're going to spend all day with somebody, like the true colors are going to come out. And we start sort of looking at people and evaluating them, if you will, from the minute that our shuttle drivers pick them up. So we have a Zappos shuttle service that picks them up, and at the end of the day, we ask the shuttle driver, like, how did they treat you, right? How did they treat you? Did they treat you like, oh, get my bags, or were they kind, right? Do you have any feedback? And so from the very beginning, there's this incredibly rigorous hiring process to make sure that people are not only technically proficient, right? They've got the skills to do the job really well, but culturally proficient. Because what we know is that we can develop skills, right? We can develop technical skills, but that sort of those core values, like those personal core values and who you are and like how you show up to work every day, those things are difficult to change. And so, rigorous hiring process that goes into, I mentioned the 4-week training that everybody goes through. And at the end of the 4-week training, we actually offer people money to quit. So we say, you've been here for a month now, right? You know what our culture is like. You've seen this. You've gotten, the view of it. If this is not the right thing for you, we will pay you to leave this job so that you don't stay here for the money, right? We don't want people to make a decision to stay at Zappos just for the money. We want them to stay because they're passionate about helping us create a quality product, right, and deliver wow to our customers. And so I think along the way, it's really about getting the right people on the bus, right, getting the right folks in the right seats. And I think the diligence that we take in like selecting people, making sure that they're trained in the culture and giving them opportunities to support them if they want to leave, I think that's what really puts the right people in those places. And so when you think about how do we give autonomy and still deliver a quality product, we have exceptional people that are empowered by self-organization, and they are acting like the CEOs of their own, teams and leading incredible product. And so I think it all starts with the people.
That's fantastic. So for all of you, if you're using virtual assistants, outsourcers, it doesn't really matter if they're an in-house employee or you're outsourcing. It's critically important that you do make those decisions and vet them, give them a project, but also for some of you in your world, if you do make a hiring decision based on the size of your company right now and it's a poor decision, it can take you out by the knees. So, I really, really do love, what we're talking about. So there is a question that I know all of them want to ask. It's a little bit of scope creep. So I'm just going to put it out there because I know they're thinking it. And then we'll see if we really want to answer it right now or not. Or maybe I'll just follow up with, data or information. And that is, how does Zappos do business with outside vendors? Meaning that selection process. I don't know if someone from supplier diversity is here, but
We do not, but I just met with Kelly, who is leading our supplier diversity
Kelly
initiative.
with a T, right? Her last name?
No, last name starts with an M.
Okay.
Yeah, probably
Yeah.
the same Kelly though.
Yeah. We don't say last names because we don't want them to get stalker dialed.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're asking how do we?
Yes. So,
Yeah.
A lot of folks in here, obviously, we talk about contacting small, medium, and larger businesses and getting access and doing business with a company like that. So does Zappos do business with outside companies? Of course.
Yes.
And what is the process? Not specifically, no names, but is there, I guess, let me rephrase this, Alexis. What are some of the key, what are the key core values that you are looking for when selecting a vendor or outside consultant to come in and partner up and work with Zappos?
Yeah. So I think there are two pieces of information that are hopefully helpful here, talking about how we build relationships with vendors and outside vendors. And then also I want to touch on this sort of supplier diversity initiative that I was just talking about because it's a new initiative for Zappos, and it's pretty exciting time for supplier diversity at Zappos. So the first thing I'll talk about is how we treat our vendors. And so I am not on the merchandising team, but the relationships between our merchandising team and our vendors are legendary, and the stories sort of permeate all throughout the company about what it looks like to build a business relationship with Zappos. And so what I have been so impressed by is when we talk about culture, core values, one of our core values is building open and honest relationships building relationships through open and honest communication, right? And when we approach our vendors, I think that there's a lot of times this desire to kind of see how much you can eke out of the other person, right? Like we're in competition to see who's going to walk away with like buyer's remorse here, right? Like
Right.
and it's this kind of like back and forth game that can be pretty brutal. And I think the way that Zappos approaches vendor relationships is we don't want to fight you. We don't want anybody to leave this situation feeling like they're the ones who got the short straw, right? We want to build relationships that are mutually beneficial, where we treat each other well. Like as human beings, we treat each other well, right? And I think that drives the way that we interact with vendors in a really powerful way that you don't see a lot of times. And so you see so every year we have this big vendor party that Zappos puts on where we invite all of our vendors and we just throw this gigantic party just to celebrate them and say like, thank you for doing business with us, right?
How cool is that?
It's an amazing party. It is really incredible. So we have this huge party, but even in the smaller interactions, like our buyers are friends, right, with the representatives from the brands that we buy from. They go out to drinks. They treat each other well. They're friends. They talk about family. I mean, it's really about building that enduring and lasting connection and approaching it like, how can we build a mutually beneficial relationship where we respect each other instead of trying to get the most out of each other? So I think that is just a really fascinating part of the way that we treat vendors. Thinking about like recruiting and getting on new sort of vendors, the new diversity initiative sort of recognizes that it's really important that now as a company with 1,500 employees, we're established, right, that we have a responsibility to build a diverse pipeline of businesses that we do business with. And I think naturally, we have done business with a lot of women-owned businesses and, businesses that identify as minority-owned or LGBTQ-owned. And so we've naturally sort of, built up a business base. But I think recently we've realized that we now have the responsibility as a company who has made it, in a sense, to be really deliberate about that strategy. And so what I'm really excited about is they're actually going to be reaching out to these communities of sort of minority and diverse owned businesses and hosting on-site Zappos Vendor 101 and helping people develop their pitch, helping people understand what Zappos looks for, and actually teaching people, right? And providing a service to the community and to these businesses. And then they get a chance to pitch, right? So you do this whole day of training and development, sharing our story and what we look for in vendors, and then they'll get an opportunity to pitch. And they don't have to, right? I mean, they could just show up for the class and that's enough, right? It's enough to just provide that service. But it's kind of our way of giving back and hopefully widening the pipeline of diverse businesses that are ready and capable to do business with somebody like Zappos. And so I think, I hope that, those are kind of just 2 points, but I hope that kind of captures the nature of how we do business with vendors.
I think that's so exciting.
Yes.
And I actually didn't know that part.
Well, the stuff I just told you about it is brand new. It is being developed right now.
Oh,
So we haven't even
I think
hosted the first one, but that is, been pitched and in development, and there's a lot of sort of excitement and inertia behind it. So
I think that's fabulous because I do know a lot of companies, and candidly, I don't know of any company that does that. You're talking about a company, your dream client, that's actually going to allow you to come in. They're going to teach you how to do business with them, and then, I loved it when you go, and then, you don't have to pitch, and I would be like, you don't leave without the one call close. So it's just fantastic. Do you all see now why I absolutely love Zappos and I wanted to share them with you? Amazing, right?
thank you.
Alexis said something earlier that I talk about sometimes, and I know sometimes it's a weird word. I say, be normal. Just be yourself. And sometimes it's like, well, what does that mean? Like me, myself, and I. How do you be normal? And so I want to go into Grease and Disrupt because that's pretty cool. But, when I said earlier about I was in that meeting room and it was all dark, and I just had to wave my arms around and do all this weirdness. And I said, I was processing out loud and said, hey, listen, I'm in the dark. I gotta go wave my arms around for a second. It was the, amongst other
I'm
things.
laughing because on the scale of 1 to incredibly weird, that is, that registers if you've ever been to Zappos, you will walk past 10 other weirder things on your way into the building. You trying to turn the lights on by waving your arms is a totally normal thing.
It's normal.
I don't even know why you think that's strange. I was
and I
yeah,
said,
of course.
oh crap, on the phone.
Yeah.
Which then I was like, whatever.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna go all in.
I don't even talk about cursing.
I was almost come on and get your eagle on, girl, right? It's just I have to make the motion detector go so the lights would come on. But, back onto business, Grease and Disrupt. Mm-hmm. You guys have this incredible terminology. So we all talk about, when you're crafting your own business, you want to have your own language and your own terminology. And that caught my attention. Would you share with them what Grease and Disrupt is all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we made the move into Holocracy, this new kind of system for self-organization, we kind of gave us this neat opportunity to wipe the slate clean and build an organization that was really dynamic and responsive to the needs, right, of our customers, the needs of our employees. And so I think sometimes businesses, once you've gotten to a certain point, operate a lot on inertia, right? So somebody brings up a new idea and it's wow, we should really do this new idea. And the answer is well, we already have all of our money invested in this thing that we've been doing forever, and so we don't have the resources right now, right? And so constantly new ideas get kind of pushed to the wayside simply because they're not the things that we're doing right now. And that's not very good decision-making calculus, right? You shouldn't make decisions just because it's the thing that you've been doing. You should make decisions by holding two things up side by side and really comparing what's going to be best, right, for the purpose of your company. And so I think what Holocracy allowed us to do was kind of say, all right, we want to be able to empower people to innovate more and create new systems. And so when we moved into Holocracy, we created a circle, which is, again, I know there's a lot of Holocracy speak here, but a circle is just kind of our term for a team. So we created a circle that is called Grease and Disrupt. And the purpose of the circle is to grease and disrupt, right? So to provide the grease that allows the sort of business, the day-to-day business to run, right? Provide that grease, that inspiration, whatever is needed there, but also to disrupt, to be truly disruptive. And I think any of my Zappos folks here would testify to the fact that the past couple months have been a whirlwind of disruption, right? I mean, like, can I get some, like, nods? Like, uncomfortable levels of disruption, right? I mean, it, like, flies, and Regina's like, yes. It flies in the face of, like, everything as humans. We want security, and we want, like, predictability, and, like, all of these things, right, just naturally. And instead, we moved in the opposite direction. We said, we're actually going to build a team called Disrupt, and its job is going to be to shake things up. And, like, this is who we are now, right? We're like taking real data from the world and changing and updating our systems to continue to thrive. And so the whole circle, there's a bunch of initiatives that are kind of housed in that circle, but it is really just a generator of disruptive ideas that, you know, will hopefully innovate and help us to better serve our ultimate purpose.
So if you are not disrupting, then, you know, I mean, you've got to disrupt the status quo, right? You really have to go out on a limb. You must be bold, fearless, unstoppable. And you know, disruptive technologies, disruptive in your business is absolutely game-changing. And no glass ceiling is definitely disruptive. And, you know, there have been some phone calls of, you know, folks saying, what are you doing? And then other companies, big companies, saying, hey, can we bring you in? You satisfy 5 of the 9 diversity legal requirements. Can we do something? I'm like, you know, I have an event. We can talk after. You know, so it's fascinating what you're doing. We have a couple more minutes.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about anything else? I was thinking maybe, here comes the audible. I was thinking maybe if I control the group, we could take a couple questions.
Yeah,
Are you
absolutely.
open?
Yeah, take
Who
questions.
has the first
Yeah.
question? Stand up, go to the mic. We'll take 3. Shannon, then Calm. Or whoever. Just stand up. You guys got to stand up and walk to this mic over here, because I have the other one. You have to go to that mic over there. There you go. Shannon, go for it, babe.
Can you give us an example of a disruptive idea?
Oh, yeah.
Because it sounds cool, but I want, like, give me an example. Like, what is something that you guys specifically do?
Yeah. I think the first disruptive idea, the original disruptive idea, is self-organization, right? So I think the most disruptive thing about self-organization is that it takes the power that has normally been held just by managers and directors in the company, and it distributes that evenly to every single person in the company. So if you are a call center representative and you are on the phone with somebody and you sense that there is a problem, right, with our delivery or like the box that things are coming in, your job is now to go to that circle and propose a change that will address that and move the company forward, right? So it is not okay anymore to defer your decision-making authority or your power into the hands of a manager and just say, I sense this problem, will you please take that for me and like solve it? It is now incumbent upon each person in the company to solve their own problems, and that is incredibly uncomfortable. It sounds awesome, right? Everybody's like, oh, this is great. But in practice, we have been trained our whole lives to defer authority to other people to make those decisions for us, and it is wildly uncomfortable. I'll share one more. We're thinking about, you know, how can we maximize like efficiency and happiness in our call center, and are thinking about how can we use supply and demand to actually put a price on different shifts and let people bid for shifts in real time, right? So like an Uber model for, you know, like serving employees so that employees can maximize for flexibility or maximize for money, or they've each got their own personal mission that's going to make them happy, right? So introducing that concept. And I share this with you guys knowing that like these stories are still unfolding. Like the self-organization story is still unfolding. This sort of supply-demand thing is still unfolding, but these are ideas that I think would have never been considered or really realized sort of prior to Disrupt.
Holocracy.
Yeah, and there's so many more that I can't even begin to explain.
This is the tip of the iceberg.
So it seems like a lot of experiential things, a lot of, you know, testing new models and testing new methods and things like that. So I think it's brilliant stuff. Love the core 10 values and things like that. I think it's game-changing stuff for a company and a culture. But how or where are you modeling this from? Because it's obviously like, the wheel has already been turning, but you're just making it spin better, a lot better. And and what companies do you guys look up to in terms of, leaders in the space of cultural diversity, great company culture and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think that I recently went on a trip to NextJump in New York City. I don't know if anybody's familiar with NextJump. And the strange thing about NextJump is I'm not even really sure what their business is, right? I think they deliver benefits to large companies, something along those lines. But what is really newsworthy about NextJump is their sort of culture and the way that they treat their employees and the radical transparency that they conduct themselves with. And so we came back from that visit from New York really inspired about how we can help employees. Like when somebody leaves Zappos, we want them to be able to say I am a better person for having worked here, right? So not just professionally, but I'm a personally been improved. I'm a better person because having worked here. And that was inspired by NextJump. And so we learned a lot. We kind of just stole a page out of their playbook on mentorship models, which we're implementing at Zappos. And so we get a lot of inspiration from a lot of places. Self-organization came from a consulting company called Holocracy is where we kind of got the idea. And of course, we take these ideas and then we have to Zappify them, right? Which is a verb that we use a lot. So, we draw inspiration from all kinds of companies. I mean, we're constantly reading and absorbing and visiting companies. I know Tony just went to St. John's College in New Mexico because they do this really innovative way of teaching and learning. So, I mean, we are constantly absorbing that information and then bringing it in-house and figuring out how do we Zappify this? How do we inject a little fun and weirdness into this and really make it fit our culture? So, I mean, there's just a few examples, but it's a pretty constant wheel of learning. Yeah.
Hi. So what is your process when you're bringing new initiatives? Is it done just in the circles, or do you bring all employees together? Number one. Number two, when you're a vendor and you're seeking out the diversity vendors, I don't know if you've decided on this yet, but what is the resource that you go to find those diversity vendors?
So the first question is, how do we do initiatives, right? And so initiatives are really born in their circles, right? So remember I said a call center employee can senses something. We call that sensing attention. So every single employee at Zappos is a human sensor. It's kind of how we refer to it. And so if somebody senses attention or an opportunity, right, to grow, they bring that to their circle and can propose a role be created or a project be created around this. I think once that kind of takes life, we have a lot of opportunities to communicate that company-wide. So we have quarterly all-hands meetings where we get everybody together and we go down here are the innovative things that we're working on, here, and to get everybody that communication that they need. But it's really born out of these individual data pieces that people are gathering in their roles and bringing them back into their circles, and they are sort of in charge of developing that initiative, right? If you sensed it, then it's your job to solve it, right? And really it being kind of born in that way. So hopefully that answers your first question.
Yes. Very collaborative.
Yes. And then the second question was what resources are we looking for? So again, it's a very new program, and I know that we've identified a couple of the certifying bodies that certify a company as being supplier. Yeah, there are all kinds of sort of badges or certifications you can get for a minority-owned company or a woman-led company or LGBTQ company. And so I think we're first looking, and we haven't made any deals or signed any contracts yet, but we're looking to those kind of certifying bodies as a way to get in touch with that business community.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Where's LaTanya? Is she in the room? There you go. Do you see LaTanya? She certifies women-owned businesses.
Huh.
So for my attendees, you can connect with her and have a little chat. Vanessa, last question.
First of all, I'm fascinated with the culture and what you guys are creating there. It's really inspiring. One of the things that I wanted to ask is, the work that I do is helping individuals who are in sales, whether they're entrepreneurs or they're representing a company, to get in touch with what is their deeper purpose and how it fits into the company purpose. so their work is an expression of their purpose in the world. I'm curious, just because of what you shared in the hiring process and also the deep commitment to the development of employees and anybody that you guys touch from a vendor perspective, is there anything that you guys are already doing now inside of Zappos that connects the individual purpose to the big Zappos vision and purpose?
That's a great question, and
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We recently had Simon Sinek talk at one of our all hands, and he wrote a book called "Start with the Why" about finding purpose. And so this is something that we really are thinking a lot about. But as you were talking, what it made me think is I recently learned something that I think is so cool about Zappos. We were doing some diversity, pulling numbers about diversity, and we learned that so we have 1,500 people, and 911 of those employees are not in the call center. So excluding the call center, 911 of those employees. And of those 911 employees, 25 or 24% of them started in the call center. Okay. A quarter of our employees across marketing and finance and merchandising and technology, all of our other functional areas, a quarter of those employees started in the call center, right? So when I think about like connecting individual purpose with company purpose and supporting the growth and development of each individual person, I think that, I was just in awe when I read that because it confirmed what I already knew about Zappos, which is that we have an entire team dedicated to developing classes and resources to help people connect with their true passion, develop their skills. And so we have a team that provides classes to help people get from where they are to where they want to be. And I think so I'd say yes, right? We have education, we have resources, we have classes and mentors and support structures to help people really realize their dreams. And I think for our folks that start in CLT, or customer loyalty team, I'm sorry, I'm using that acronym, are in their call center, that is certainly true. And even for me, in my personal journey at Zappos, it's been true. I remember I've had 3 jobs at Zappos in the course of 2.5 years, right? And I think at any other company, when you're like, oh, hey, recruiting team, like I just got an offer from like our pipeline team to go work for them. And then when I told the pipeline team, hey, pipeline team, like I want to go work on the Zappos initiative. I think at any other company, what's going to happen is managers will begin to get salty with you.
They get pissy.
Right? Like we're stealing talent from each other, right? Like how dare you? I worked hard to recruit that person and you've stolen them, right? And so I was really worried about that, right? Like I was just, taking these opportunities as they came. And I remember sitting down with my manager on the pipeline team. Her name's Krista. And she said, and I was like, are you going to be mad about this? Like, I'm so sorry. And I started with the apologies and with the whatever. And she said, Alexis, I'm really sad to see you go, but like, it wouldn't be honoring our core value of pursue growth and learning if I didn't support you 100% in this. And there's never, in a day since then, been any animosity or cattiness or politics or like anything, right? And I am just like, I was floored by that, right? So it's not like a war for talent. It's like really seeing those core values every day come to life. And so that's a long answer to your question, but I think the answer is, yeah, if we're living by our core values, then we are constantly helping people connect with their personal mission.
Wow. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Was this absolutely amazing? Did you guys enjoy this very much? So I know that, you're not going anywhere yet.
Going?
She's like, I'm out of here. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. So I know a lot of you are curious about the supplier diversity. Maybe at some point we'll connect in a couple of weeks or whatever. And, if there's updates or whatever, I can push it out to you. Okay. In closing, how many of you would love to be able to call a company, build a relationship? I've had fun.
Good.
I hope you guys have.
You should be.
Did you guys enjoy it so far? Yeah. But how many of you would love to be able to cold call a company? I'm not saying it goes like this every time, but for both sides, you have to look and say, is it a fit? But the big piece is you need to know why you want. Remember earlier I said you want to do business with a company? And you have to be in love with that company. And you have to risk that they're not going to love you back. And it might sting, but it's okay. And I love Zappos. And I'm so honored that you're here.
We love you.
I can't wait to go get weird one day.
Oh, come get weird
I'm
with
gonna
us.
come get weird
Come
with
get-
y'all.
You're all invited to come get weird with us.
Oh.
Please do.
No, seriously though, I'm super grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Thank
Big
you.
hand for Alexis Gonzales Black.
Thank you so much.